board to order, and we'll note that all members of the board are present and ask that you stand for the flag salute. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any public comment this evening?
Good evening. Is it open? On? Yeah. Okay. Good evening, Planning Commission HRB. I believe it was in December you approved the historic walking trail plaque, and I wanted to share them with you this evening. So I'm going to pass them around to you. Oh, great. So this is our sample. So you can see the plaque itself. And then below it is the identifier that will, it's a numbered identifier where it is on the map. So it'll let that member of the public look at number 24 to find out some information about number 24. And it also has an area, the squares, where we're going to have a QR code. And the QR will go directly to the web page for that particular historic site. So I just wanted to share this with you since you helped approve the project.
Would you state your name for the record?
Yeah, sure. My name is Shauna Frulis.
That's very nice.
Very nice.
Yes.
And then I also wanted to let you know that we are scheduling a ribbon cutting event for the historic walking trail April 21st at 10:30 a.m. And we're going to hold the event at the Anza Adobe on 3rd Street in Franklin. And I invite you to attend. You'll have an invitation that'll be coming to you. I wanted to let you all know that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Wow. Get it? Yeah, it's broken. Oh.
Number 2 pencil.
Gotta wear with swords. Okay, any other public comment? Okay, thank you. So this time, there's an item on the agenda for informal project review that gives the opportunity for anybody in the public to come forward and talk to us about any projects you might have planned, to get some feedback. I'll just remind you that the Historic Resources Board could not take any action or get into in-depth conversation about that. Is there anybody that has a project? And remember, there's the same opportunity during the Planning Commission if you feel it's not for the purpose.
Would this include the project on Mission Vineyard?
It would not.
Okay, is that part of the agenda this evening?
It is.
Planning Commission.
Right up to this one. Right. Sorry. I don't have an agenda.
So to clarify, it's an item on the Planning Commission agenda which follows this meeting, which I would expect to be pretty brief. Okay, we'll move now to the consent agenda. Is there any member of the board or the public that would like any item on the consent agenda removed before we vote on that? Seeing none, I'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Move to approve. Second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay. Okay, the next action item is to consider a sign review for the Southwest Roundup Studio Gallery at 106 3rd Street in the Historic District and make recommendations to the Planning Commission. You have a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Chairman and members of the board. This
Hang on just 1 second.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I need to recuse myself on this. My family owns the mall that the buildings or the signs part of.
Excuse me. We'll come and get you, Scott. Okay, go ahead with the staff report.
Okay, thank you. So this is a request for sign design review for the Southwest Roundup Studio Gallery. This is a sign type that otherwise would be permitted without a special permit, but since it is within the downtown historic district, which takes in the Mission and 3rd Street down to 4th Street, it does require Historic Resources Board consideration with a recommendation to the Planning Commission for approval. Staff has reviewed the proposal and finds that it is consistent with the city's design guidelines, specifically Chapter 7 of the sign design guidelines. As you can see from the exhibits, it replaces a sign that has been there for many years, the Mission Gallery sign, which has been removed, and it is going on the same post as the Mission Gallery sign was located on. So we do find that it is compliant with the city's design criteria, but there is a matter of the area. Projecting signs are limited to 36 inches in projection. This sign and the previous sign are 4 feet, and the post, in fact, is 4 feet. And if you visited the site, you'd see that if it was a 3-foot sign, it would be a little bit disproportionate to the existing post. So the HRB can recommend approval of a sign exception to the Planning Commission upon finding that there's, reasonable grounds to do so. And given that the sign has been there for, I think, 18 years and the post exists, staff does support the 3-foot limit exception, and that would also be a recommendation of the Planning Commission.
Okay. Is the applicant here, and do you wish to make any comment?
The applicant is here, and unless you have questions, I think David covered everything.
I don't. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, we'll open up to public comment. All right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion.
Thing's been up for 18 years. To me, it's just a sign face change. I have no problem with it.
I don't have any issues with this.
Okay.
No concerns.
Therefore, I'd look for a recommendation to the Planning Commission to approve the application.
We move to have the Planning Commission approve the application with the extended length of the sign.
Second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All right. Do you have a comment?
No.
I'm sorry.
No,
It's fast.
just allergies.
Okay. Can somebody, oh, here he comes.
No, somebody can get started.
Hope you weren't trying to sleep. That was a fast one.
Okay, at the last meeting, there was discussion about the consideration of a public structure or residential structure to recognize during Preservation Month. This is a customary practice of the Planning Commission. We received some public comment on that item, one nomination.
Actually, there were a couple.
Was there more?
Yeah,
Well, one person nominated 2 items?
Carol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that was it.
We don't have to select tonight.
What's that?
We don't have to select it tonight. This thing's for the May meeting of the Planning Commission. So we have another month to, if anybody wants to continue this.
Okay.
So these are 2 public buildings, rather, we don't have anything selected for residential?
David, Commissioner, the Adobe is a mixed use.
Oh.
It's residential.
Oh, that's right.
So it could actually, technically, it could go
you
either
could
way.
kill 2 birds with 1 stone there.
Okay, did we not discuss...
2 stones.
I'm sorry, did we not discuss at the last meeting you two kind of spearheading this effort? Or did we not?
Well, I did put a presentation together, went out and take a look at a lot of samples that we had for the residential portion of it. But it was pretty much decided between, before we did that, what we're going to do public, and that was the Glad Tidings Church. And then we ended up with a private residence, which was on 1111 on First Street.
That was last year?
That was last year,
Okay,
yeah.
good, all right. That's-
Another thought would be to refer this one to the Historical Society and say, hey, you guys are out there, and that's one of the things you do, and see if, again, if you wanted to expand.
Okay,
And then Van de Gever, who's the president of that organization, was a former planning commissioner.
that's great, okay. All right, so if there's no objection, I'll reach out to them and let them know we're soliciting their input, and then I'll remind any member of the public that we would also value your input. You can just simply send an email to the city clerk or forward it to one of the members of the Historical Resources Board.
So we'll make our final decision
In May?
in May?
No, next month.
Yeah.
In April?
Yeah.
April, okay.
That gives time to do the
To do it in May,
certificates
okay.
Right.
and get ready for them.
This is March, so, yeah. So April would bring it forward.
Okay, so your committee should be formed is what I'm thinking, so that we can get to the point of bringing forth some nominees.
Okay, would somebody like to chair that committee?
What, John?
Sure, I'll chair it. So, in your directions to me is to have something finalized by next month? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Through this person right here?
Yes.
Okay, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah. And you can have a broad-reaching committee if you'd like.
Yeah, okay. So I would like to ask the City Hall, could we make an announcement or some effect that they can contact me? And I could and take a look at that, and then next month I can present whatever findings we have based on the research information that I received, and we'll take it from there? Okay.
Okay, and so remember, this is largely just a ceremonial issue, so.
Right, exactly.
Okay, the last item is just comments. Is there any comments from any members of the Historic Resources Board? City Manager? Community Development Director?
Just to remind the board that at our next meeting in April, there will be an agenda item to select a new chair and vice chair representatives.
Okay, so we'll adjourn the Historic Resources Board meeting, and we'll now open the regular meeting of the Planning Commission. And again, the record will reflect that all commissioners are present. Is there any public comment for any items that are not on the agenda? We don't have any? Okay. So similar to the last item, now is an opportunity for anybody that has any project that they might be interested in doing within the community, within the city, to come forward now and give us a presentation on that. Is there anybody who would like to do that? Okay. We'll now move to the consent agenda. Is there any member of the public or any members of the commission that would like to pull any items from the consent agenda?
I'd like to pull the minutes of the meeting of February 6th. For the record, it was the consensus of the commissioners to recommend the inclusion of the industrial zone, etc. That was not a consensus. I was not supportive of that. So I would like the record to reflect it.
That's correct. Anything else? Okay, so a motion to approve the consent agenda with a correction relative to the voting. Okay. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, we'll now move to item 5, public hearing on the Midnight Express Trucking Company, which is an application to construct a 14,560 square foot agricultural transfer warehouse station on Old San Juan Hollister Road. It's been submitted to the city on an 18.8 acre parcel and zoned agricultural, business, industrial, and the applicants are Cynthia Orozco, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Could we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. This is an application to construct a agricultural transfer warehouse on Old San Juan Hollister Road, as was just described. The application includes a site plan and design review for the site development and grading and site and landscape improvements and storm water improvements. The application also includes a conditional use permit to allow a warehouse and in an industrial zoning district. And I think agricultural business industrial is a descriptive term, but the general plan designation and the zoning designation is just industrial. In addition to those two discretionary applications, there was an environmental assessment done pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act, and there is an environmental negative declaration that's been prepared with a resolution to adopt that. So there's the three resolutions: the environmental resolution, the site and design review resolution, and the conditional use permit resolution. The primary site issues have been relative to the 100-year floodplain that encompasses roughly 2/3 of the property. This building has been designed to be above the 100-year floodplain, either out of it or above it, so it does comply with those floodplain requirements. The pad area for the driveway and parking is roughly 1 plus or minus feet above the existing grade, and then the finished floor of the structure itself will be approximately 4 feet above the finished grade, so that does raise it up above the floodplain. The other site issue were the Trace San Andreas Fault lines that cross part of the property. This was analyzed by the applicant's geotechnical consultants, Berlogger, Stevens and Associates, and then as required, their report was peer-reviewed by a city-hired geotechnical firm, Cal Engineering and Geology, who concurred with their findings and recommended appropriate setbacks from the fault lines for the structure as proposed. Right now, this is really a use application. These are not engineered construction drawings yet. If the site plan and design review are approved and the conditional use permit are approved, then it will be submitted for engineering and building plan check and further analysis regarding earthquake safety and floodplain matters. The conditional use permit, this is a conditionally permitted use within an industrial general plan and zoning designation. The uses are specific to that designation. It allows uses such as agricultural machinery, sales and repair, veterinary, hospitals, auto sales and service, offices, manufacturing and warehouses, and then various retail uses such as feed stores and that type of thing. So it's a fairly broad range of uses. Those are not all of them, but those are the types of uses that are anticipated in an industrial district. To make the conditional use permit findings, the Planning Commission will need to find the project is consistent with the city's general plan and zoning designation, which staff finds that it is. The proposed project occurs within city limits with municipal utilities on a project development area of no more than 5 acres, and the property is 18 acres plus, but the development area is less than 5 acres, so it does comply with that. Approval of the project would not result in any significant effects relating to traffic, noise, air quality, or water quality, and that's been analyzed in the initial study that the commissioners received. There are a relatively small number of trucks proposed. It's approximately, let's see, I believe it was 5 of the small trucks. It's in the report. I don't have it right in front of me, but it's approximately 5 small trucks that would bring product to the site, and then approximately 4 of the larger 18-wheel commercial trucks that would then take the product up to the peninsula and the East Bay for distribution. The condition is drafted to say no more than 12 trucks, just to provide some leeway. So if there's 9 trucks total trips proposed, if it's a busy season and they have 10 trucks or 11 trucks visiting the site, then that wouldn't require a reevaluation of the conditional use permit. So the limit is on 12 truck trips per day for the use, and also the hours of operation that are identified. And I think, just lastly, I would say that the conditional use permit does run with the property and with the business activity. So if there are concerns or the lack of compliance with these conditions and hours of operation and number of truck trips in the future, the use permit could always be rescheduled for reevaluation. The conditions of approval include that the street frontage along the entire frontage of this property be resurfaced to repair the roadway. There's also conditions in the CUP that address the existing drainage swale to make sure that it's operating as best it can. And the project will also be subject to the National Pollution Discharge Permit requirements and the California State Stormwater Pollution Prevention Discharge Permit requirements. So that's another level of review that will occur if the CUP is approved, that will ensure that stormwater is either retained on site or it is cleaned to the level that it can go into the the creek system without causing any pollution to the waterways. Lastly, I would just say that we've received several letters. We received a letter that is attached to the staff report from Mr. and Mrs. Raymer, concerned about storm water coming off their property and draining downslope towards their property. We've received a letter from George Diaz, concerned about the refrigeration unit in the warehouse and what kind of noise that may generate and how that operates, whether that's 24/7 or not. And so we can ask the applicant to address that letter. We received a letter from Carol Vong concerned about the number of truck trips and what that would, what kind of problems that may cause for the new Copperleaf housing development and guests at the Hacienda Inn. We've received a letter from the Mission Farm Recreational Vehicle Campground concerned primarily about stormwater runoff. And then lastly, we received a letter from a botanist that provides information on a number of plant and site conditions. Julia King of JK Botany and Wetlands Science. But ultimately, the concern is about the intrusion into the wetlands and again what that would do to stormwater runoff. That's a primary concern in the letter, but there's more in there that the Commission has in front of them.
Does that conclude your staff report? Okay. The applicants, I assume you received all these letters. Did you want to make any comment on that? On any of the concerns raised in the letters?
I guess we'd like to
Could you? Public comment.
address it all.
Yeah, that's fine. Public comment on the items?
I'd like to draw attention to
If you'd state your name, please. Yeah.
Mike Brewitt, and I am Mr. Moore's representative, and he was the one who requested Julia King's letter. And I would just like to bring to the council's attention on, I believe it's the fourth or fifth page, the future concerns, and it's primarily the wetlands, okay? And I would ask that the council please take this into consideration seriously for future concerns, okay? Number one. Number two, is there a way that the council can acknowledge to Ms. King receipt of this report or acknowledge it at the very least? Will they or not?
So the public record of this meeting reflects that we've received that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Additional public comment? Okay, seeing none, if the applicants could come forward.
Ann Hall with San Benito Engineering. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and the applicant's also here. We can both address some of the items that have come up. As you mentioned, the storm drain was brought up by several different people, and we talked about this last month at the meeting. The requirement to not affect storm drainage and how it leaves the property is a state requirement that we have to comply with. We know that, and going into it, the only thing we have right now proposed is the building, which does set up higher because of the truck docks. The majority of the paving and everything else is at grade, so therefore it doesn't really change the elevation. Based on last month's discussion, we talked to the structural engineer. The foundation itself would be designed as a pass-through foundation, meaning you would have venting on the side of it, and in the event of a floodplain that goes across there, the water can go through and under the foundation. So there would be every effort made to not impact the ability of floodwaters to traverse the property, which they are, as they do now. And then we would have to detain and treat any stormwater before it left the property. So those are things we know going into it that we have to address. This area does drain a large, the San Juan Canyon comes down and drains a large area there, and that applies not to just this property, but, several other properties in that area. And so we do feel that we are aware of and prepared to deal with those issues associated with stormwater and the requirements to have to meet them. However, there are a couple other items in the conditions of approval that I do have a question about that weren't really discussed with the applicant prior to seeing them published for this meeting. And I'd like to question condition number 2 talks about the hours of operation are limited from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Is there a reason? Is there something dictating the 9 a.m.? That's fairly late for an industrial use.
Would you like to address that, please?
That was simply taken off the application.
Yeah. I think I remember something about that mentioned, that time period too, during the conceptual.
Okay, I'm not sure where the 9 a.m. came from. If it came from the application, then that was an error on our part. And because the reality is that they would like to start before 9 a.m. And I would think the reality is most of the industrial uses out there already start before 9 a.m. The earliest, what we prefer is 6 a.m. And I don't know if we wrote it down wrong in the application, but.
So, I would assume the applicant would need to amend their application?
No, that change can be made this evening, yeah.
Okay, great. So you're proposing 6 to what time?
Frankly, 10 p.m. is later than the applicant anticipates needing. But farming generally tends to be more of a morning business. Sure. But 10 a.m. is fine. We're not opposed to the 10 a.m. that's shown in here.
You mean PM?
10 p.m., sorry. 10 p.m.
Well, you need to tell us what you think it should be.
Then if we'd just like to change it from 9, right now it says between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m., and we'd like it to say 6 a.m. and 10 p.m.
Okay, so noted.
Okay. Number 13 has to do with improvements for the repair and resurfacing of the full width of Old San Juan Hollister Road for the entire frontage of the property. That is slightly open-ended. That road is in very bad shape. I'm not sure what repair of the road would consist of, whether you were talking about rebuilding the road section, whether we're talking about a grind and overlay, that seems, the work that's implied in that seems a little out of scale with the small business that they're attempting to start here. And then in combination with condition number 18, says complete Old San Juan Hollister road improvements to be used in conjunction with the Copperleaf subdivision road improvements subject to, that is a wide open blank check that I don't know what that, road improvements. Is that widening? Is that, I don't know what that is. That's like I said, very open-ended. And together those requirements are, like I said, out of scale with the project that I believe is being proposed here. This is not a 50-lot subdivision that's going in. This is a trucking and industrial operation that you're looking at 6 to 10 trucks a day. And these are somewhat open-ended and potentially very expensive conditions that are here. So,
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Commissioner, I think at this point, since we're not really going to be able to get into the engineering of the road resurfacing, the way the condition is written, if it's approved, A plan would then be developed on the applicant's part, working with the city engineering staff. And if that was determined to be too onerous on the applicant's part, they could always bring that specific back to the Planning Commission for reconsideration. But at this point, I would wait to see what those improvements result in and whether that's acceptable to the applicants. The second part of the question, that was just a timing issue. The thought was that if the Copperleaf contractors are paving their road, that it might be more cost-effective for the applicants to just pay a proportional cost towards them to do the road all at once using a single contractor. But that would be the applicant's choice. They could either do the road improvements or contribute towards a later singular project.
And does that include curb and gutter?
No, it does not.
Or sidewalks?
No.
Okay. So same characteristic as the road, sir?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so you're saying, excuse me, so number 13 is the extent of what that means is up for discussion and could be potentially altered in the future if it were too onerous? Is that what I understood you saying?
Well, it would be determined by the city engineering staff working with yourself and the applicants. And if the end result was too onerous, then that could always be brought back to the Planning Commission for further consideration.
Okay. And you're saying 18 was just a potential for timing?
Yes.
Okay. And I think those were the main questions I had. I know the applicant wants to speak to some of your questions, but did you have any for me while I was up here?
Not now.
Okay.
I don't. Does anybody else?
Not yet.
We may have other questions.
My name is Lori Farmer, and I live on Mission Vineyard. And now that the time has changed from 9 a.m. until 10 p.m., I have a problem with 6 o'clock in the morning because I'm going to be impacted by that noise at 6 in the morning. So I do have a problem with that. And it seems like it would be fair to run from 7 to 7 and not 10 o'clock at night, because it is residential, a lot of residential areas around there.
Okay.
And we hear the noise, just like we hear the freeway. So it will impact us from 6, I mean, that's only giving us 8 hours of quiet. So, thank you.
Okay. Did you say one of the applicants wanted to speak?
My name is Cynthia Orozco. I'm owner of Midnight Express. I do understand the concerns they have with noise. I sort of feel like they really don't know the process of our company. We don't have trucks running in and out all day long, all night long. It's not the way the process is. Our trucks are at our yard. They leave, for most part, by 10 a.m. in the morning. They leave from our yard and they go out and they're gone for about 8 hours or more. When they return, and they park at the warehouse, the proposed warehouse, and we offload everything off of the trucks, which gives about an hour or 2 hours to reconsolidate everything and put everything back into the trucks, where then they're off to their destinations in the Bay Area to deliver. There's not going to be trucks coming in and out, in and out. We are nothing compared to National Selections or Earthbound over here. Absolutely nothing compared to them. Our trucks are just simply our family business. We've been, 2 generations of business, and pretty much it's just very minimal time that trucks are going to be coming in and out. So the concern about all that noise, I think you guys are going to get way more noise from what you guys already hear in the freeway than what you guys actually hear from our trucks. They may drive maybe 4 times in, 4 times out, that's it. And that's just the trucks that are going to drive in, come out, and it's not going to be back and forth, back and forth. I do get really concerned in regards to that street and the road, the way it's already conditioned. It is in very bad condition as it is, and I don't think it has anything to do with our company. We are more than willing to accept to repair certain things on it, or as you guys in the future repair it, that we subject to repair for the traffic that we're going to be using on that. I do understand that it's not only the traffic coming from the people or residents that are going to be on that live along that road, but people that are trying to avoid traffic on 156 come through that road all the time. And the development that's coming down the road of houses, far more traffic's going to come from that development than there's ever going to be from my development. We have how many houses are going up, how many people are going to live in these homes, how many people in these houses have cars that are going to come in and out. The Mission Park right there as well, they have many people who are living there that are coming in and out, much more than what we're going to be doing. So I do feel it really extreme to have us try to repair that entire road right there. It's just, it's not traffic that we're going to be conducting on that. It's really nothing compared to what everything else that's already been going through. We don't really use our refrigerator units because we do very short-term consolidation in the warehouse, the proposed warehouse. The refrigerator units are only used when they're coming on the freeway from wherever destination they're at to our destination. As soon as they arrive to our warehouse, refrigerators are turned off because that warehouse is not going to be refrigerated. So there's really no point of having open doors and refrigerated units be going on and on, just wasting our diesel. So refrigerators, very minimal, are going to be on. And being the space that we're out, really far out, I really don't think you guys are going to be able to hear it at all, if they're even on. So it's very limited as well. We've already really invested a lot of money, more than we expected. We're really new at this, and the fault investigation alone really put us out almost at $130,000. And that's just 5 acres of land. Heaven forbid we even try to do the other part of the land because they were looking at another $200,000. I mean, the road to fix it, I don't know how much that's going to be because I have really no idea. But I could only imagine it's going to cost also a lot of thousands of dollars, probably in the hundreds. We're a very small business. It's, like I tell you, it's family oriented. We don't make extreme amounts of money. And we were hoping to be part of the community and maybe bring a little bit more work here, maybe hire some employees that are right here in the area, and maybe in the future even build something, so that the money is being able to be brought out from that property. But from what we've been experiencing, it seems like we're just getting shut doors absolutely everywhere. And I really don't know what was to be expected from that property, being that it's industrial, if it's so sticky on what you guys really want to put there. Maybe you guys can explain exactly what you guys really are proposing you guys want it there, so we can get maybe an idea of what we can look forward to doing in the future. Do you guys have any questions?
So what are the size of your trucks? I've heard two characterizations, very kind of small trucks and then larger 18-wheelers. What are the sizes of the trucks that will be going on and off?
For the most part, we have 18-wheelers.
Okay.
We do have bobtails, but the most part, just the 18-wheelers that we really run. And like I tell you, it's very minimal. It's exit, they go and do their 8-hour shift, 10-hour shifts, and then they arrive, we unload, offload, or whatever, and then they're off again for another 8 to 10-hour shift. They're not coming back and forth.
I think you said you have an existing business. Where's that business located at?
Right now, we're currently located on San Juan Road in Hollister. I don't know if you guys are familiar where the water plant's at, the water treatment plant. Right next to it, my uncle has a property, 5-acre property right there, and we're currently leasing out from him.
And that's a similar operation to...
Yes, exactly the same operation that we're planning to perform on this if we're allowed to. I also had to go through the city for permits to use permit for there, which we got from Hollister. Quite frankly, I thought it was going to be sort of silly. It was pretty easy over there. They're like, okay, well, let me see what you guys have, what you guys are doing. Came out and looked, and voila. But they gave us permission over there. I know it's not the same right here and over there. It's the same operation. We also have Bandel Brothers over there also on that same road. And I did notice on the map that they had sent on that 13-page thing of the science studies or whatever, that there's also another trucking company, unless I can see correctly, on that same side of that property of Murphy's, is that correct or no?
Murphy's?
Or Murray, I'm not sure who that person was on this thing. That science,
There's across the street from you, there's an existing facility, but it's not trucking, I don't think.
on the back of the property that we have, where that 11-acre lot is at,
Oh, on Mission Vineyard Road?
I think so. But they're the ones that sent that
There's no-
whole 13 packet,
There's no trucking
13
company
page,
there.
just like some trailers out there and stuff like that.
That's not a trucking company.
Okay,
That's in the county.
It's in the county.
okay.
Okay, does any members of the commission have additional questions of the applicant?
I want to thank you for clarifying what this is like. That helps a lot. So, thank you for that.
I just had one final comment. I could see when you build a facility like this that, you know, for cost considerations or what have you, there might be a desire to underbuild, if you will, particularly the parking and staging area. And I think that one of the conditions of approval that I would look for is that all the commercial trucking operations be limited to your property. In other words, not having trucks line up along the road there. So is that a concern of yours? Do you feel you have adequate parking and what have you?
We have 18 acres.
Okay, but I
I
mean,
think that's more than sufficient.
well, it is, but your application, you're not developing the entire 18 acres.
Yes.
So, I mean, I want to be really sincere with you.
Yes,
because I think
honest-
I'm going to ask for that to be a condition of.
Yes, quite honestly, yes, we have no expectation there's going to be any trucks out there in the, I mean, like I tell you, we have very minimal amount of trucks, and from that 5 acre, it's more than sufficient. That's exactly the 5 acres that we have over here with my uncle, and we never have trucks parked out on the side. There's no need for it. We have plenty of room to park them in.
Okay, well,
Okay, that's good to know.
that's good to know. All right.
That's good to know.
Any other comments?
I've got a few.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got a couple. On the application, does it specify what type of vehicles in the application? Because in the staff report, it says something about small trucks and then larger trucks.
The narrative was written that way, that there would be 5 smaller trucks and then 4 of the larger trucks, but I think it's been clarified that it could be more of the larger 18-wheel trucks, so.
Okay. So it'll be 18-wheel, it won't be bobtails, it'll be 18-wheel
For the
trucks.
most part, we have our 18-wheelers. We do have bobtails, but we mostly use our 18-wheelers. Maybe the bobtail would be used mostly during the high season, but it's very limited.
So then does that increase your amount of rigs coming in there?
Not really.
On top of your
Because like I
6 to
said, we usually use our big trucks.
6 to 10?
Yeah.
In terms of your operation, who brings the produce to your plant? Do you go get it, or does the farmers bring it in?
We go get it. We go to the warehouses in Salinas and Santa Maria where the harvesters take their product to be cooled, and we go to their facilities and we pick up from their cold storages and whatever we're supposed to pick up, and then bring it to our yard and pick it all out. We consolidate where it's going to be delivered to, and then later put back into their trucks so they can go deliver to their proper areas.
Thank you.
Okay.
Question, on your plans, it shows a section of the building being cold storage.
Yes.
Can you define that for us, please?
Yes, that was our original desire, to do a cold box for future use, but we didn't have the quote and how much it was going to be before we actually submitted those plans to you guys, and it came out way above what we expected to pay. So since then, we have minimized the 2 phases, what we're going to do, and quite frankly, at this point, I think the bigger the building is going to probably be 5,250 square feet with no cold box, because at this point, I think that's all we could afford.
So it won't be 14,000 square feet?
Not right now, no.
Okay, so this is the third set of plans now that we've got you've got 3 conflicting plans. I saw 2s for 7,000 feet with with a roadway in the back, and now I'm seeing one with 14,000 feet, and now you're saying it probably won't even be 14,000 feet.
But if they get it for 14,000, they could do it in stages. At such time as they're able to afford the cooling thing, it's already been approved.
Sure.
Under roof.
But that's all.
Rather than have her come back in.
So in order to do that, you need more construction. You're going to have more construction traffic. It's going to be a continuation of the...
Yeah, but that's all been covered.
Yeah,
in the
okay.
environmental report.
That's exactly our
It's not 14,000 feet.
Thanks.
That was why, so we can do it in phases, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to, you said phases, I just wanted to make sure that's what it was, and it wasn't more of the 18 acres.
Oh,
as part of
no.
your phases.
I mean, I would imagine far in the future, if we get out of this alive, then we probably would want to do something with the remaining, but at this point, it doesn't look likely.
Okay. You talked about spending a lot of money, and I imagine it was probably pretty crazy doing... You spent a lot of money before you came to us with some type of conceptual thing, and I'm just kind of worried about that it was kind of a gamble.
Well, quite frankly, in the very beginning, before we even started gambling, we actually were talking to Roger, who was then your guys' city's manager, and things changed quite a bit from what he was saying to what it is now. So...
What was he saying?
Well, it seemed like the way he said it, maybe we just understood him wrong, but it seemed like things were not going to be that difficult. And we didn't know beforehand that we needed to do that fault investigation. Like I told you, we're new. We don't know really about buying land. I mean, tell me about buying a house. I've done that before. But buying naked land like that and having to construct, there's a lot of things that we had no idea about. And maybe we did get into something that we were blinded by before we even knew anything. And we did talk amongst different people that had wisdom about doing that. But when we already proposed to do what we did, it was already too late. Money had already been invested. We had already signed contracts, and we can't step out of it now. It's already too much money invested. So now it's pretty much we're at your guys' mercy and what you guys decide you guys want us to do and what we could actually do.
No, I understand that.
I think that's part of Mr. Rios' point is I don't think that the commission or anybody in the city is asking you to do anything that's unreasonable or would not have to have been done. At least that's my belief. And as far as to what extent you'd be required to, repair the road or what have you, without the engineering report, I don't even think anybody can speculate on that, unless you don't agree with that assessment.
No, I do agree with that. And just to the comments that were made, the geology investigation had to be performed before the application could be taken in and accepted. So that is work that has to happen before the application is made. They could, of course, come under informal project review and presented the concept to the Planning Commission, but the application couldn't have been processed. Regarding the size, I didn't really focus on this, but there was confusion at sort of the 11th hour. The application has always been for a 14,560 square foot building. That's what the environmental analysis was based on, and the application was advertised that way. Last week, just as we were putting the packet together, the smaller 7,000 square foot plans were submitted. And so the documents were modified to get them out to the Planning Commission on Wednesday to reflect that. But they are requesting approval for the full 14,560 square foot. So the conditional use permit would be based on that. So if the initial plan comes in smaller, it would be similar to the 7,000 square foot plan that you've already seen. And then maybe a couple years down the road, they could implement phase 2 or not, depending. But this approval would be for the full 14,560. And then regarding the trucks, the condition is written, it doesn't identify what kind of trucks. It just says no more than 12 truck trips per day.
Okay, perfect.
That was the final draft, written that way? Because there was small and there was large.
In the report there were.
Yeah.
The conditions just say 12 trucks.
All right.
Okay, well, that's good to know. I was just, and of course, I was concerned with some of the stormwater, and I've heard that, of course, is being taken care of. My only concern about the stormwater is the runoff from asphalt and how it's going to be filtered or retained. Is it going to be a pond? I'm sorry, could I ask your engineer? Is it going to be a? Yeah. Is it going to be a retention pond, or is it going to be a percolated type drainage system?
We're showing bioretention is what we're showing. So there's a certain amount of percolation that goes on in the bioretention, and ideally for small storm events, most of it would percolate. But in larger events, some of it will just be retained and then pass through. But I think we showed two areas of dispersion on the plans. One would be a pond area toward the front, and the other one was more of a linear dispersion area from the backyard.
Okay.
But those are both things that have to be, they're both shown conceptually on the general review, but they'll have to be fully designed, and we'll have to justify them with the drainage calculations that the city engineering will get to review.
Okay, I just wanted to kind of make sure that was said out loud so people do understand that it's a concern and it's being addressed. And,
Sure, no.
Most of the folks you got letters from were around in 1998. And they waded through the water with me and my fire department, evacuating people out there, and they're concerned for not only your building and your piece of land, they're also concerned for them. It's a piece of asphalt. I don't think at 5 acres it's going to make a huge difference as far as collection or that impermeable. That was the concern.
Sure, no, we understand that's a concern, and it's definitely one we're prepared to have to address.
Okay.
So traffic, light, or all types of traffic will be on asphalt throughout all serving the facility?
The on-site, you're talking about the on-site?
Yeah, I mean, I see you have like trucks in front and you have trucks in back. So all that area where you have trucks being parked, that's going to be all asphalt.
That's what we've shown it, yes, is all asphalt.
So that's going to help with, as far as drainage goes, but that'll help with dust. Keep the dust down, hopefully, right? Well, I hope, yeah.
Any other questions?
What about water? Do they have their own well there and everything that serves that facility? And what about sewage and wastewater? Is there going to be in the movement of produce? Is there going to be water being used to rinse off the docks or something like that, or wash something? Or is there any type of rinsing that's going to be done where there would be accumulating wastewater? And where would all it go to, if there was any?
Since the property's in the city and there's water and sewer in the road available, the proposal is to use city water and sewer for, the restrooms and any domestic use. Like you said, once the area is paved, during construction, obviously we'll have to water to keep dust down. But once the area is built up, it's not anticipated there would be a lot of dust being created, because like you said, it'd be on paved areas. Right now, there's no other source of water, so anything like wash down would be city water that they'd be paying for. Obviously, they'd probably try and keep that limited.
Will water being used in the processing of food? I mean,
they're just packaging and
just packaging. There won't be any.
No, there's no real processed water. They're not washing lettuce or anything like that.
Not expecting the trucks to be washed there and stuff like that, huh?
Do you wash the trucks?
We usually get a truck that comes out and washes them for us. They usually do with their own system where they conserve water and able to recycle and all that.
One more. You realize that right now that we're on a moratorium as far as hooking up any water, and that there's no, there's no projection in the future when that's going to lift.
One of the conditions is that, they can't hook up to water until the moratorium's lifted. We are aware of that.
Okay. So for planning, does that also mean the fire suppression systems aren't going to be hooked up?
That was a question I had. Because typically there's not water.
For the sprinkler system, yeah, the fire suppression systems.
Construction.
Well, so if the project's finished and the warehouse is sitting there without any water to it, it's just going to be a warehouse.
It is our policy that we will issue permits for the pressurizing of the fire sprinkler system and to test the domestic water supply system, but not hook it up for water consumption.
So there'll be
domestic
no
water consumption.
constant flow for it?
Well, the initial cost to pressurize their system.
So there would be no water available for fire suppression at all?
Exactly the opposite of what I'm saying.
Okay.
There would be,
There would be for fire suppression, they're just not for domestic use?
Yes.
Until the moratorium is lifted?
that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'd be two different lines coming in.
I'm sorry. So could they build without the permits?
No,
Well, I mean, the connection?
They can build, they just can't get a certificate of occupancy until the water connection is, moratorium is lifted.
So for all effective purposes, they could really operate their business, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and I guess that goes back to my question, if fire suppression is available, then the building could be permitted, correct?
Not until the moratorium is lifted.
We would adopt the same policy with respect to this industrial building as we have to the residential projects. The builder may get a building permit to build with the understanding that they can't occupy until the water connection moratorium is lifted.
Okay,
So your risk is that,
sure.
I don't know how long it's going to take you to build anyway, but of course it is our goal to have the water connection lifted within a few months here. But
Okay.
I just wanted to also talk about the timing, the time from the 9 to 10 or 6 to 10 or whatever. We really don't have control of what timing the trucks would be, but there is a very rough, well, not very rough, our trucks usually leave at 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning from Monday to Thursday. They don't return until 8 or 10 hours later, and usually they're coming in about 10 o'clock at night, roughly, from 10 to 12, and then leaving again 1 or 2 hours after that. And it's maybe 3, 4 trucks at the very most that will be leaving our yard at that time and won't be back until about 8 o'clock in the morning again to get the vehicle again, and the same process over and over again. But like I tell you, it's not a constant commute, and it's just a one-time drive-through and they're gone. It's pretty much the same noise that they would probably be hearing on, probably much more on the freeway than you would hear what we were going to do. And if you guys wanted us to, and take that opposite direction from, not entering from where you guys proposed, coming in from the light, where the residence is at, we could always enter from the opposite direction, and there is no residence there.
There's actually a trailer park there.
There's a trailer park, and there's two of them, there's two sets of trailers.
So I don't know how the rest of the commission feels about this, but I do feel, and don't take this for anything other than what it is. I think you do need to be very specific about your hours of operation. That's the concerns that have been brought, a big portion of the concerns have been brought to the commission. So I think you need to think that out and tell us where that's going to be so we can consider that. What you just described to me is almost like a 24-hour operation.
Okay, but, well, it sounds like that, but they're not. I think where it maybe might be a little confused is that 24 operation sort of, I feel, is consisting of constant, all day long, running back and forth, and it's hardly our case. Like I said, our trucks leave, they're gone for about 12 hours or 10 to 12 hours. They come back, one trip, then they reload it and they're gone again. They're not coming all different timing throughout the day, and that's not the way.
So there's 2 times they come and go?
Yes.
So you're saying there should be a window for the morning and a window for night?
Yes.
So what would be the start and stop time window for the morning? What would be the stop for the night?
Well, I would say that our window for the morning would be probably from 6 to 10, roughly, and the window for the nighttime would probably be from 10 to about 1 o'clock in the morning.
So now we're talking 4 hours each time. So it's an 8-hour.
And that's different than the application, though. That's the concern. There's some, we're getting some indiscretions here. We've got application indiscretions. We've got plans that are showing up that are, I'm just getting a little bit confused with the whole thing. I'd like to see it all.
Because of phases, I think I would just explain that part of it.
Yeah.
The timing, I think it was an error on our part. I don't know what, maybe the question wasn't answered correctly. But we've also noted there's trailers parked on the side right there on that road as well. I mean, I don't know, is there just going to be limits to everybody that passes through there? Are you guys going to have control over that?
Well, I'm not sure what you're characterizing. I mean, you're going to be treated just like everybody else in the city. Now, if you're saying if there's a code enforcement issue out there that we're not aware of, that the sheriff or somebody should be enforcing, that's a whole other issue. What I said to you specific about that was that I didn't want to see, in my opinion, any trucks parked out there on that.
Yeah, no, of course not.
Okay, so I'm not sure what you meant by that.
Oh, my concern was because I understand that they're concerned about trucks coming in through that road and the noise, right? Is that the concern? There's also trucks coming in through that road that are going to be not our trucks, but trucks that I've seen that park along the side that come from the freeway or from other places, maybe they live nearby. I mean, if you guys are going to have a time frame, is it going to be noted out there, oh, trucks can't pass through here certain hours? Because we can limit our trucks to certain hours, and if you guys want us to, and we try to.
What we're addressing right now is just specific to your application.
Okay.
And I think it's a legitimate concern for you to identify, what your hours of operation are going to be. We've heard from residents that they're concerned about late night traffic. I agree with you wholeheartedly that the noise out on the highway, is very disruptive. I can hear it from my house, which is, some distance from you. But having said that, we need you to identify your hours of operation. These documents don't just come to us, they go to the public as well. So what that means is the public has had the opportunity to read these documents and come here or email the city clerk to raise, their concerns. So we started off the conversation about hours of operation. I'm just going through this with you so you can understand. Based on your application, then we recognize there was an error in the 9 o'clock startup time, which totally get that, and then we asked you to clarify your hours of operation. And now you're telling us that those are going to extend to like 1 o'clock in the morning, basically. So, that's a concern. Now, if we're talking about limited hours, limited number of truck trips, I don't know. Maybe we could say something like your trucks can only operate in that area at something crazy, like 15 miles an hour or something. I don't know. They can't get up much speed out there anyway. But I think we do need to define what your hours of operation is going to be. Do you have any comment on that?
No, I don't, but I think that's a good approach, is limiting it to the windows, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the morning, for example, and then 6 p.m. to sometime at night, instead of having it wide open from, 7 or 6 a.m. to midnight or something.
And I don't know how cumbersome that's going to be for you.
Well, sounds pretty reasonable.
Okay. All right, so part of this condition of approval then would be to limit those hours of operation. Do we do that at this meeting tonight, or is that, okay, all right. So what are you proposing?
Well, our proposal is to leave from 6 to 10, leaving hour.
Okay.
And our coming back in hours would probably be from 10 to 1. That usually sounds the most reasonable.
Well, that's, okay. Okay, specifically the hours of operation, is everybody comfortable with that? Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah. We want to make it work for them.
Yeah, I know.
We've been begging. We're pushing them to a direction that'll make them successful.
Yeah, we've been begging for businesses to come in.
Yeah.
And now we've got one, I don't want to lose them.
And I would propose that one of the condition of approval be that no trucks from their operation could park adjacent to or on that roadway. This also reminds me of, a discussion years ago we had regarding property out there, and at some point it changed. We actually had a specific use plan for that area. At some point it changed to the current zoning, including residential and industrial, but noting that all these varying factors from industrial and residential mixed use, I think things like, this issue of the speed limit, for instance, for industrial and trucking operations and hours of operations. I don't remember what that old specific plan said. I'm getting to be an old guy, but and it addressed how that area would be developed and what we would be doing there. Something to think about for the future, I think. Mr. City Manager?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, you're speaking of what was called, I think, the South San Juan Specific Plan.
That's right.
It was adopted about the turn of the century.
Yeah. Thank you.
It was subsequently, however, mooted by the fact that we adopted a brand-new general plan. Notwithstanding that, I concur with your sentiment. I'm concerned that this whole area south of 156 does cry out for the need for another specific plan so we can identify the constraints and the opportunities and how all these different uses are going to work together. And that's the kind of recommendation we're going to be giving to the City Council.
Very good.
I don't want to see good businesses go through this again.
No, that's the problem. Unfortunately, I apologize that one person told you that, I don't know if one person told you this was going to be a slam dunk and you got nothing to worry about, but there's certain rules we have to go by.
Yeah, I totally understand.
And maybe somebody before didn't go by certain rules, but if I'm going to vote yes or no, I want to make sure that I'm following the rules because I want my conscience to be clear, and it's nothing against you at all.
Yes, I totally understand.
Okay. Okay, I'm ready to bring this back to the commission for vote.
Okay, let's talk about the manipulation.
I've already public.
Well, you've changed the hours now.
Well,
You've changed the hours of what you've sent out to the public, so now that you've sent this application out to the public, and you've gotten their concerns, but now you've changed the hours until 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sure that if you send it back out to the public, they're going to have more concerns.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful. We recognize that, and that's why we just had that whole discussion. So I need to bring it back to the commission to vote on it, and they may not even approve it, just for that concern. So we close the public comment. I hear exactly what you're saying.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Franklin?
Okay, we're, throughout this negative declaration, we're talking about a state of U.S. Highway 156. I don't know where U.S. Highway 156 is, but I think it should say State Highway or just Highway 156 because the locals know where it is. Something like this, that's all it takes to sue on it and cause some create confusion and hold us up. And it's throughout the thing it is U.S. 156.
Oh, it's not U.S., it's right, it's state.
Yeah. Anyway, on page 8, no, take that back, no, that's the strong one. On page 10, conditions 2 and 3 are duplicated. I want to scratch that one. I've got a question on 13. Why is the coroner of the county of Santa Clara notified the human remains are found? Why not the coroner from the county of San Benito?
I saw that too, yeah. Circled it. Yeah.
What was the question? What page 13?
On page 13, at the first line, C, in the event of
the corner of county.
human remains are found.
Should be San Benito.
Yes, that's a good correction. That's a typo.
And on the same line, top of page 17, it also says that Santa Clara County Environmental Health.
Right.
They would sort of built them.
There we go, they can report it.
So that would be San Benito County Environmental Health?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, let me read this thing too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Flip back to that. Flip back to your first page. Oh, you're there. That's wrong.
Oh, I didn't
If you
check
want to bring
that.
it up, I'll bring it up if you don't.
Yeah, but I didn't catch this. I didn't catch that one.
It's in the peer review? Yeah, yes. On the peer review first page, the APN number's wrong. It's on the geology report.
The APN number,
Yeah,
what should it be?
it should be this, the one we have over, where is it? It's the one that the staff report is correct on the APN.
On page 2, it's correct, 002-550-00.
This puts it out there somewhere.
Over on it then, if we look at the resolution, the third whereas, we're talking about 20-day review period, but the dates only give you 18, so it should be consistent.
On this resolution, let's see, we got two, how many we got here? We got three of them.
Yeah, you got the environmental,
Yeah.
you got the design, and then you've got the use permit.
Yeah, so,
There's three of them.
yep, use permit. Should we make sure we get it in writing that the fire suppression system will be hooked up?
During construction,
That's-
completion of construction.
It says no water connections shall be permitted, but it doesn't, we don't specify that, so,
Oh, that's an automatic thing.
well, like you said, cross the i's and dot the t's, right?
Yeah, you're right, I want to make sure that, I'd hate to lose the day it opens because of a fire.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. Should we fix that and then... So we changed the hours of operation, is that correct? So is it 6 to...
6 to 10 in the morning, 10 to 1.
10 to 1?
And no roadside parking.
Which one do you put that one under?
Yeah, I think the third one.
You know, for staff situation, we're going to have them, they're going to park on their own property because they've got the 18 acres. But apparently somebody else is parking their trucks and trailers along their frontage. We should probably have it posted. If we're going to squeeze them, I think we should not let anybody park on those streets.
Totally.
I agree.
Well, I don't know what the law is relative to parking out there, but I think specific to their operations, we can limit them to park on their own property.
No, I'm not talking about them, I'm talking about...
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything else?
One at a time, or maybe just stick with...
Yeah, let's just do one at a time.
Okay.
So I look for a motion to consider resolution, what is it?
01?
Oh, wow.
Oh, 1.
2018-01 to adopt an environmental negative declaration. It's right here.
Yeah, but it's 2001. Shouldn't this be 2018?
Yes,
Yeah.
it should be.
It should 2018-01, not 2001.
Right.
Oh, I got, mine says 2018.
Was it?
Yeah.
And it's also not,
This one ran out of ink, I guess. Okay.
okay, so I look for a motion.
I move that we adopt the resolution for 2018-01,
Go ahead and read the title.
a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista adopting a negative declaration for an agricultural transfer warehouse station on Old San Juan Hollister Road.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, so the record will reflect that was unanimous. The next one is to consider resolution 2018-02 for adoption of site and design review.
Minor point, but now therefore be resolved, the Planning Commission of the City of San Bautista, include the word Juan in there.
I'm sorry, say that again, sir?
Now therefore be it resolved.
Oh, okay.
Finish the sentence.
Oh, that one, okay.
Looking for Juan.
Sam, they forgot the Juan. Okay.
Okay, was that your motion, Ernie?
No, that was just a correction.
Okay.
Well, why don't you make the motion then?
Okay.
Since you know what the correction is.
02?
This is okay.
Yeah, it's 02.
A resolution, okay, I move that the following, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving site plan and design review to construct an agricultural transfer warehouse station on Old San Juan Hollister Road. I move that that be adopted.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then consider resolution 2018-03 to adopt a conditional use permit with the...
Let's put the actual words at the bottom, the line 2.
Okay.
Last one, what do you want to say on there?
Hours of operation, yes.
How's the operation?
Boy, this is a big one.
6, 8, 9, 10.
Okay.
10 to 1, huh?
6 a.m.
10 p.m.
to 10.
That's the only correction so far?
And,
They're talking about
Of course, everything's there.
10 p.m. to 1 a.m.
13 and 18.
13 and 18. 13.
Open-ended.
I'd like to make the addition of no roadside parking from vehicles associated with the business.
Makes that 21?
Given your sentiment there, maybe it'd be useful to say in addition, no parking, no staging, no queuing.
Oh, very good.
Parking, staging, or queuing.
So we're talking about no off-site
Parking, staging, or queuing
Associated with the business operations.
Can we add the fire suppression system, though?
Parking.
Make sure that it's in writing that it can be hooked up? Or are we just going to use the implication that it's going to happen?
This is fire is our regular pursuit.
Mr. Chairman, members, you could add, provided however, the fire protection system may be connected and pressurized.
No, I think that was a
Part of
continuation.
3. No water system, comma. Okay.
Would you repeat that, sir?
It's got it on this
Please, thank you.
cheat sheet.
After the comma, provided however, the fire protection system may be connected and pressurized prior to occupancy.
Is there one more?
Who prepared the neg deck?
City staff.
City staff. Very good job. Very good job.
I don't see anything to be...
Anything else?
Usually it says on the cover, but I couldn't find your name on it.
Okay, so I'd look for a motion to consider resolution 2018-03 to adopt a conditional use permit.
I move that.
Oh, wait a minute, one last thing I wanted to put in there. On number 4, capitalize air in the Air Resource District.
Number 4.
Where?
Number 4.
It's said a few times. It's in 9 district.
Instead of air district, you went air resource district.
Oh, yours is capitalized, mine wasn't.
Yeah, mine is capitalized.
What the heck's
You
going
must have a
on?
little copy.
Oh, pursuant to...
Making up stuff over there?
Hey, I got a bad one.
Oh.
I feel left out.
Okay,
You good? Answer, Mr. Printup?
I can resolve now.
You haven't made a resolution tonight?
I move that we adopt Resolution 2018-03, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving conditional use permit on agricultural transportation
With the corrections.
with the corrections that we've just made.
I'll second that. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
Tally-ho. Jane? All right, the next item, sorry that took so long, Jane, but normal course of business or something like that. So the next item is an action item to approve the Southwest Roundup Studio Gallery sign design permit, 106 3rd Street in the Historic Resources District. You want to excuse yourself? Excuse myself.
Bye.
As recommended by the Historic Resources Board. Is there any further staff report?
No, Mr. Chairman, there is not.
Okay. Any further discussion by the commission or members of the public? Noting none, I look for a motion to approve.
And will we adopt resolution 4?
Yes.
2018-04, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving the sign design review for Southwest Roundup Studio Gallery at 106 3rd Street within the Historic District.
I second that.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. You bet, Jane.
She could have gotten that one with the Skyping.
Okay, item 7, discussion item, 18th Borough, 322 3rd Street, 6-month review of outdoor patio activity. Staff report, please.
Thank you. This is a 6-month review of a conditional use permit that was approved last year. The use permit was approved after and independent of the primary business approval, and it was specifically for the use of the outdoor patio as a wine and beer tasting and live music venue seasonally. One of the conditions of approval required a 6-month review of the outdoor patio CUP, primarily to understand whether the live music was a concern to by residents or anybody else. So there's no action tonight. This is really for the planning commissioners to express any concerns they may or may not have regarding the outdoor live music, which again is seasonal, and whether there's anybody from the public that would like to speak to the operation. As I noted in the memo, the city staff are not aware of any complaints regarding noise or alcoholic beverages commission license issues, and so we're just bringing this on the agenda for discussion purposes. There's no action. If there is deemed to be a need for action, then we would reschedule the conditional use permit for a later meeting.
Okay, and do we have any written, thank you for that. Do we have any written correspondence to put forward? Any members of the public that would like to speak on this?
They're going to have some cooking on the back.
Yeah, so I recall that as a condition of their approval, when we approved this, there was talk of maybe having, pizza oven or some cooking, and as I recall, we granted the permission to do that, but they haven't exercised that.
Yeah, because that would have made a difference to be allowed family.
To
allow it to be a family outfit as opposed to being basically a restaurant as opposed to just being a on sale.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they would have to get that permit by ABC, who may or may not grant that permission, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I was the one who suggested the 6 and 12. I've heard of no comments. And again, it just shows them, everybody, that we are concerned about people coming in and running a good business, and I think doing a good job out there.
Doing a great job. Yeah, great job. And made a lot of improvements there. Okay, So it was mentioned by staff, this is not an action item, so nobody's raising concerns, so.
See you in 6 months.
See you in 6 months.
Or actually in 2 weeks in Murphy's.
2 weeks of Murphy, there you go.
God, it's coming up fast. It's coming up real fast.
Okay, comments and reports. Fellow planning commissioners, any comments or reports?
I just want to thank staff for being patient with me. Like I said, I want to make sure I get all this stuff done right, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. I want to make sure everything's hashed out before we don't want to waste anybody's time, so I appreciate it, thank you. You too, Ed, thanks.
Sounds good to me.
I think you have an item that you'd like to discuss.
Yes, I could. Since I am also involved with the County Action Board, they are trying to get a community development block grant from the state and feds that could be in the amount of $2.5 to $5 million to build a youth center in San Benito County. The two sites that are the two cities that are looking for this, of course, are the only two cities that are incorporated in this county. We are in the process of identifying properties that might be possibilities, and we need from the public and different entities such as the government, letters of intent for property use donation for building the San Benito County Youth Center, and a letter of allowance for youth center from the city planning department, and letters of commitment from community bodies such as the city council and staff, the youth commission, the school district, possibility, county superintendent partners, pledges and financial supporters, and in-kind contributors. And then the potential sites that have been identified in San Juan Bautista specifically, of course, it's going to take a little more research to make sure we can do these. The San Juan preschool location on the Alameda Street, which is in the school district properties, but it was mentioned to me at one of the meetings at the Parks and Trails meeting that I attended as a possibility. City of San Juan Bautista maintenance yard, but it would entail also having a plan to move the maintenance yard to another location. The City of San Juan Bautista Lane Park property was also mentioned in the Parks Strategic Planning Committee or Subcommittee as a possibility. And then the Youth Commission has approached, I think, the Japanese community, and they're looking at the JACL Hall on First Street as a possibility. So it also was proposed to the CAB members that they're doing research in their city that has a potential to become a joint venture of satellite sites in both cities as a possibility too. Right now, because of the way the synergy is working in the San Juan Bautista area, we may have a better chance of maybe even locating this youth center here in San Juan Bautista rather than Hollister. They're getting a lot of hang-ups with their city staff and city council. So I just wanted to put it out there so that the public would know about it, and hope we can put it as an agenda item on the next planning commission meeting. Discuss this further.
So, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I think approval of grant applications would have to be done at a city council level. I don't think we can do that.
No, but we have to approve allowances of the land use for a youth center.
So I understand where you're going with this, but I don't know how we would approve something without knowing the specific site plan. I mean, all the steps we just went through for, the trucking. So what is it, what's the timeline for this? When do they have to have this application?
That keeps changing. Every time I talk to them, it keeps changing because they are running up against trying to spend the monies from the last grant that they got on the...
I'm sorry,
the county needs to complete spending the monies that they got for their last grant,
Well, we need-
building the homeless shelter.
We need plenty of money over here. That can be easy enough. We'll spend it for them.
Yes, well,
So I think this would be a great thing for the town. I'm just not really sure the logistics of getting this done.
well, I'm not either, because
Yeah.
like I say, that target keeps changing. So what I am doing though is I am a member of this,
Sure.
and I can keep bringing back this information as
Okay.
things gel better.
Okay.
Okay.
So I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is they're just putting the word out now. There's no actual application and process or a timeline to get that in or anything like that?
Well, they would, I know that, I think July, they said something about something starting in July. What we are trying to get, what we were told at this point is we need to get letters of intent. We don't, for property use or donation for our youth center, okay? And letters of allowance for a youth center from the city planning department, those kinds of things. And then maybe letters of commitments from these other community bodies. So what we need are these letters of intent at this point, so that they know that we're trying to, we've got people on board that are trying to work with us.
So they're support letters?
Yes, basically.
Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, yes, he did. That's a comment on
Thought I
that.
saw his ring.
Yeah, I think I read an email.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, the idea of a youth center in San Juan Bautista is certainly a great idea. Getting it to the completion requires a number of important steps. If it is necessary for us to endorse the application by identifying a specific site, then my concern is that the city council has to approve that specific site. I'm sure they would appreciate the recommendation from the planning commission. But if, for example, the specific site was the current corporation yard, I would not recommend they do so until there was a credible plan to relocate the corporation yard. Now, there is some ideas about where we might put a corporation yard, but where we might put it and actually moving it are two different things.
And whether you could use these dollars to fund that?
I don't think you can do that. I'm pretty sure, but significantly, for me, another important criterion of deciding whether or not to approve a specific site is what is the role of the city of San Juan Bautista in operating this facility? So there's a grant application for construction of a facility, but who's going to operate it, and are the taxpayers of San Juan going to be responsible? That's a big budgetary decision for the city council to make.
Okay, to that I can speak a little bit, because since they have just finished the homeless shelter, they do have an outside 501c3 that actually operates the shelter. I do know they went ahead and asked Hollister for some monies to help with the shelter, because they are taking care of the homeless, mostly from the Hollister area. I'm sure that, they would ask for some monies, but it's operated basically by another agency that's getting grants to have the operations go ahead. So, at least that's what they're doing over there.
I think it's a good idea. I just don't know how the logistics work. I don't know how the funding mechanism works.
How do we introduce it to the city council? Through our commission? Does somebody put it on the agenda just to ask the question? And a letter of intent to go with it?
Well, I think that's, well, city manager, go ahead.
Well, Ms. Boyd has asked that at your next meeting you have a discussion of this item. It is not clear yet what it is whether you just be discussing or there's a specific action to take. I'm a little concerned about the phrase letter of intent. Is it a letter of intent to make a property available, or is it a letter of support for the notion that there is a youth center?
And explore.
And my experience with the Community Development Block Grants, the so-called CDBG, is that the granting agency will require that you have an operating plan in any event. So before they'll give you the money to build it, they want to know how you're going to operate it.
Yeah, who's going to fund it? I'm sure there's probably a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan for it and all kinds of stuff like that. And where we're going to put it is going to be up there. Where's the other, I keep hearing about moving courtyards. I'm not sure why we need to do that, but is there somewhere we're thinking about moving the corporation yard?
Well, we're working on a real estate transaction that could lead to the lifting of the water connection moratorium, which would provide a site sufficient to relocate the corporation yard at some point in the future, if there were funds to actually do so.
Okay, so,
You want me to get some more specifics?
yeah, or if there's somebody from that action committee that you would like to bring to the next meeting to discuss this, you know, but I don't think there's any objection to hearing about it more.
No, it's a great idea.
Okay.
We're going to have a whole bunch more kids here in town real soon. Have something to do with them.
Okay, any other comments?
Yeah, on the 24th and 25th of March, we've got that big city festival. At the same time, the Monterey Bay Area Cactus and Succulent Society is going to have their show and sale at the city's community center. If you're into succulents, there's exotics to be seen there and purchased.
Yes, that's always a good show.
Good show.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I got questions about, what about the brewery? What about the gas station? What about the monument sign?
The monument site is being handled by the San Juan.
Yeah, I mean,
Do we get to, are we going to get to see this sign? Is it going to come through us first, or is it?
what about the gas station? What about the brewery?
It's on our approved sign, so why don't we let staff talk through whatever issues that you can respond to, that's right. So one was the brewery?
As the commission is aware, the city has revoked the building permit and the site design review for the so-called brewery project adjacent to JJ's. The property is for sale. There's some indication that the offers have been made and may be in the process of being accepted, but there are no specific plans being brought to our attention to reinstitute the building plans or the site and design review. As soon as we have them, we'll let you know that. The gas station at the corner of the Alameda and Highway 156 is still in the Court of Appeals. We had anticipated a ruling last month, so I can't tell you when we will hear from the Court of Appeals. With respect to the monument sign, the City Council has asked the San Juan Committee to work on that on Nyland Drive at the Alameda. It would require a sign permit, like you've reminded us all public monument signs do. And the Rancho Vista subdivision, one of its conditions of approval is to contribute to that. So there's some funding, and they're working on design and raising the funds to actually build the monument.
Was there anything else?
Well, yeah. What about the roundabout on First Street? Is that still in the works too, or?
The condition of approval for the Rancho Vista subdivision was that Rancho Vista construct a roundabout on First Street, and to accomplish that, we need to relocate the PG&E poles, which will soon be occurring, and we need right-of-way from the people across the street, the Loesa family, who intend to submit a parcel map for review that would dedicate the remaining right-of-way to allow that to occur.
And the only other one, Mr. City Manager, was we brought up the sprinklers not being activated at the Harvey's Walkup. Was city staff able to make any determination there?
Punt.
Take it away.
It's a
Moratorium? No.
I'm not familiar with that specific issue, but I have been meeting with the Harvey's lockup owner regarding completing the sidewalk and curb and gutter improvements and landscaping on the Church Street side, and I will follow up on this matter also.
Yeah, it's just real briefly, that the sprinkler system wasn't operational or something, and it's turned off, so when you walk by there now, it's turned off.
Okay. We will follow up on that. The Harvey's Lockup does have a conditional use permit that runs with the property, like we talked about earlier, so we do have the ability, if we don't get compliance, to call that up for reconsideration.
Okay. Anything else?
Thanks.
Did you have any additional items you would like to report?
Just again to mention that at the next, on the next agenda, there will be an item to appoint a new chair and vice chair for the Planning Commission.
So throw your name in the hat. Okay, if there's nothing further then, I would put a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor? Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All righty.